This is Other Voices. We're listening to varied views from people who might otherwise not be heard. I'm Melissa Hale Spencer, editor of the Altamont Enterprise, talking to Jenevieve Lussier. She was born 22 years ago as Jared Lussier. She and her twin brother John were well known in the Helderberg Hilltowns and beyond for their beautiful singing voices, with harmonies reminiscent of the Everly Brothers. All along, Jenna has been on a quiet, sometimes difficult journey discovering her sexual identity. She's planning on legally changing her name and changing her body with hormones to fit who she is. Her mother, she says, has always loved her for who she is. She is now speaking out about being a transgender woman, hoping to educate others. I would just like to start by hearing a little bit, now that you're age 22 and can look back at a lifetime. When was it that you first realized that being a boy wasn't who you were?
So growing up where I am, obviously on the Hilltowns, you don't get a whole lot of education about the LGBTQIA plus community. Ever since I was little, my mom said the first thing that I wanted was a pair of pink fuzzy slippers. And I always knew that I was different. And I used to try on my sister had dresses that I would try on, and I would always picture myself walking down the aisle in my mom's wedding dress. But growing up as Jared, I learned very quickly that that wasn't acceptable in our world back then. Now is a different time. And I'm so glad that times have changed so I am able to be who I am without, well, I do get ridiculed and everything a lot, but you learn to take it with a grain of salt.
Well, if it's not too painful, and you can tell me at any time if it is, I would just like to hear about some of the times that you were ridiculed or even as an adult in a job discriminated against. Not just to hear about the pain of it, but also to hear how you dealt with it.
So I was working at a supermarket, and those who know me know where the place is, but I'm not going to name it for certain reasons. I was brought up to the office by the store manager and said that I needed to tone it down, which meant I wasn't allowed to wear my wigs, which wigs are acceptable, especially in the workplace, especially when you wear lace front wigs. Lace front wigs are wigs that make it so you can't tell that it's not your natural hairline. And those are the types of wigs that I would wear, so it looked more natural. And the company, the dress code, stated that if I were to wear a wig, it would have to be a natural color wig. And my wig was the same color as my hair is today, a dark root to blonde, how I always wanted it to be. But back then, my hair wasn't the desired length that I would like it to be. So I would either try to do my hair or wear a wig that looked nice. And there were other people in the workplace that wore wigs that had crazy colored hair, that did crazier makeup than what I did. But I got singled out. And it hurt because I was even employee of the month. So it hurt for my boss, the big boss, to come up to tell me that I'm not allowed to be who I am. And I just kept on wearing my wigs and wearing my makeup because that's who I am. And anybody who knows me knows that I love doing my makeup and I love doing my hair because it's a form of expression. And there's a time and a place for certain types of makeup and certain types of hairstyles, but I always made sure that I looked classy.
And so, you do today. People can look at the picture that runs with this. You have, it's called what, dark roots to blonde?
Mm-hmm.
Is that,
It's a balayage.
Say that again?
It's a balayage. It's when you tease the hair and then you slap on the, sugar. It's on the tip of my tongue.
Well, people
whatever.
might not know the term, and the reason that Jenna does is when she was a high school student, she was in the Board of Cooperative Educational Services, BOCES, cosmetology program.
Yes, and it was bleach that you put on there. I just remembered, I'm like, bleach, that's what it is.
Yeah, right. But the balayage I had not heard. I'm not somebody that is artful. I wouldn't even know how to apply makeup the way you do. But tell us a little about what it means, because I remember when you were still Jared, you would do a lot of amazing things with makeup and hair. You would have like models you would show me of things that you had done and pictures you had taken. How does putting on makeup change like your perception of yourself or how people see you?
Well, for me, makeup is a form of expression. So I can use different colors to express how I'm feeling that day. And I'm always a chipper person. I'm not a downer at all in any case or form. So I like to express that with nice, vibrant colors, or like a nice, soft, smoky eye to be just for like the workplace or whatever.
And you do have different personas, because yes. I have watched Jenna perform back when she was with J&J, but also in a club on Central Avenue called The Rock, where
yes.
Rock, okay. And it's just you're a different persona then. You use the name Desirée.
Yeah. And
just tell us about getting ready for a performance like that and how it is different than back when you did the Everly Brothers with your brother.
So Desirée is more outgoing, as when I was back, because Desirée also has a huge role of me becoming into my own, because when you're in drag, you get she, her pronouns, and I never had that before. I always when growing up, it was he, him pronouns. So as soon as people saying she, her, it felt more natural to me. And when you put on the makeup, it's just a magical experience that happens. Like sometimes it'll take, when I want to take my time, I could take up to 5 hours if I wanted to do my makeup just to play with it. It's so much fun to do.
It changes like parts of your face. Like you can make your nose look like very aquiline and different than it really does. And it's artistry. Yeah,
and drag too is a very, very wide variety of things. You could be a comedy queen. You can do ballads. You could do dancing numbers. So, and everybody has something to showcase. So a lot of Albany has dancing queens, which the drag queens that are gorgeous and they can dance. And it's a great form of art and a great form of expression.
And tell us about the people you met there. I know you mentioned to me recently that you now have a drag daughter, and you use these familiar terms. I think did you have a drag mother too? Or
yes, I do. My drag mother is Miss Kashi Goleen, and she's a comedy queen. She's hilarious. If you have a chance to look her up, she's on Facebook of Kashi Goleen, and she's amazing. Like, she is so funny, and she really inspires me to become more than just do a ballad, do a dancing number, or just a comedy number. She makes me put in thought into what I do, and I try to do the same for my drag daughter, because with a drag family, they're really a separate family that you don't always have. Like with my drag daughter, I love her to pieces, and I don't have any other children besides her at this point, but...
Now, how old is she?
She's 20 right now. And we're only a couple years difference, but she's something else. I love her to death. Like, even for her birthday, I baked her a cake and surprised her on her birthday. And it's just those little things that really make it a family.
And how do you come to, because most of us are born into a family, family. How do you come to acquire this family? I mean, how did you get your drag mother, and how did you get your drag daughter?
Well, how I got my drag mother was performing at the clubs, and she saw me, she really liked me, and even before I even knew who she was, everybody compared me to her. And they said, "Oh, you remind me of Kashi Goleen so much." And at that point, I didn't know how to take that because I didn't really know who she was. But it's such a big compliment to be even associated with Kashi. And the thing about a drag family is some of these kids don't have a good home life, don't have a very supportive home life. So when you're the drag mother, you take on the role of the parent. And you can make sure that they have all the love that they need. Especially, I love my drag daughter to pieces. She has a hard life, but with a drag parent like me as a mother, I make it a little bit easier.
Well, tell us about your own mother, because I know she's an incredibly supportive and loving person. So how, like when you told us the one example from your supermarket experience, just going back in childhood, so many people have difficulty, if they're trans, with their parents accepting them. Just tell us a little about your mother and how she's helped you become who you are.
Well, my mom is very supportive of me, and I'm very thankful and so lucky to have an angel like that. Because a lot of these kids in our youth, they don't have a family like that. And my mom is so supportive. We go out shopping together. I help her pick out her outfits. She helps me pick out my outfits. She lets me borrow her old clothes. And it's such a great relationship. I don't know where I would be without that woman. She is my rock. She's my best friend. And I can't even begin to explain of how much I love her. She's helped me out so much. She's always allowed me to be who I am. When we were growing up, my father didn't want us to buy Barbies or play with Barbies. He didn't want me to play with Barbies. And my mom said, "You do whatever you want. It's your Christmas money." So I would buy my toys. I would buy my Barbies. She would allow me to do whatever I wanted. If I wanted makeup for Christmas, she'd get me makeup for Christmas. And she's just everything. She is such a great mom, and I wish more kids in my community had a mom like my mom. And it's very upsetting that a lot of them don't, because to me, a mother's supposed to love their child. Parents should love their children unconditionally, because it is a part of them. Your child is a part of you, so you should love them with all the love that you could ever give somebody.
Well, I know as Jenna and I were talking about doing this podcast, she wondered if we were going to get into statistics and mention suicide. So I went and looked up, and even though I knew it was a high rate for LGBT, and I noticed, I want to discuss that before I get into the suicide. You had several more letters than I had heard on the end of that. So let's just kind of have a primer here for people. L is lesbian.
B is bisexual.
T
is transsexual. LGBTQ. Q stands for queer or questioning. There are a lot of different letters of the alphabet for our community, because which I wish one day that we don't have to have. But right now, people want to say, "Oh, what are you?"
So
or who
labels,
are you? Right?
And
they're all labels.
You don't like labels,
and
really.
I prefer, I understand now. It's kind of people want labels because they want to know who's who or who's what, and I just wish one day we can just love each other for who we are and what we are without any question.
Great philosophy. But just going back to the letters, so I didn't understand the last two. So the Q, I know from an earlier guest on this show, she's embraced the word queer, taking it from being a pejorative term to making it like one she uses with power. But questioning is for people that just haven't really figured out what. Okay, and then what were the other two letters you had on there?
QIA. To be honest, I don't know what the I stands for, but the A stands for asexual.
Okay. So they're just a variety of people that don't fit the straight and narrow path.
Right.
That have different gender identities.
Right, they have different gender identities, different sexual preferences. It covers everything, really.
Okay.
And I don't know, and there's a lot more than the QIA. That's why I say the plus at the end, because there's a whole lot of different other ones that myself am not educated in, which I would love to figure it out. But
yeah, well, no, I just
takes
wanted
a while.
to, when we ran by that one, I thought I'd go over it. But I had looked up because you had mentioned, and I knew it was a high rate for LGBTQIA individuals, but I was just shocked. On just transgender alone, a national study showed 40% of transgender adults reported having made a suicide attempt, and 92% of them said it was before the age of 25. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's just horrible, horrible numbers. And have you escaped those kinds of feelings yourself?
Even though I was raised wonderfully by my mother, I did have thoughts every now and then growing up, because you don't know anybody like you. And there was a lot of bullies at school, and it's very hard, especially living up in the Hilltowns where, yes, I do have loving people around me, but I also have people that really don't like me.
What could a school do to help that? What could a school do that would make it easier for someone like you when you were a kid going through that system?
Well, for me, I feel like they should have a seminar, because I would love to do that, especially up in Berne, because after I left, there was a huge uproar of people coming out as bisexual, transgender, and I know kids that were above me that came out as transgendered after they left school, and they came into their own. So I feel like that education up there would help tremendously, and especially living up there, you don't get the love and support from a lot of your peers, because they're very tight, like they're very uptight with everything, and they think, oh, this makes me whatever. Oh, this makes me whatever. And especially like with me, so say I'm in a relationship and somebody dates me. That doesn't make them gay, because they see me as a woman. Now, the stigma up here is not always viewed the same. They're like, oh, that makes you gay. And it doesn't make you gay, but if it does, so what? If it makes you feel that way, so what? I would love to have a seminar and bring people all from my community to talk and sit down with these kids and tell them that it is okay if you're feeling like this. And it is okay to have an open conversation about it. Because if you don't ask questions and you don't get answers, you're just going to shut down. And that was a huge part. I was shutting down because I didn't know who I was. And I wasn't able to figure it out until I became of age to go out to the clubs and learn about different things. So I feel like it would be tremendous to have that sort of education up here.
It would. So tell us a little about the club culture, because I know you've mentioned that you have performed now in New York and in the middle, was it Syracuse in the middle of the state?
Yep, it's Syracuse, Binghamton, Massachusetts, New York City. I've been all over the place. So
just tell us what that's like, that kind of culture and network. It sounds like a network of people that are connected.
It is wonderful. There are people that support you, and there are people that don't support you within your own community. And it's all about choosing your friends and choosing your family. I love performing, especially in the city, because you get all that energy. You get great energy. And you have all these people coming after you afterwards and want to take pictures or whatever. And that's always something that I love to do. And then you make connection with the other queens and everything. And you get friendships out of that too. And when you go to these clubs, you see a whole different variety of what's out there, especially in New York and in Albany. And in every club that I've been to, you see a variety of different people. And you see the older queens that are in their 50s and 60s doing it. And it just, who paved the way that made it so we are able to be who we are today? Because back then, when they were our age, they weren't able to be who they are. And with some of them, it was illegal to be who they were back then. So it's just, when you go out to these clubs, you see a whole variety of different people. And it's really enlightening and loving support. Even my mom, she's gone out to the club with me, and it was a fun experience, and it was great. Is
the way you sing differently than when you did, like the singing with your brother? Is it?
I do more modern songs when I do it, or I'll do a musical number or whatever when I sing. But I just love the energy of it. Because, like, when you're at the club, you're interacting with people face to face. You'll have a wireless mic, most clubs anyways, and you'll be able to go face to face with people. And how we make our money is, some of us have a booking fee, and some of us work for the door, and it all depends on the venue, really. But mostly every time we get tipped. And so when you make that connection with the people, you're singing to the people. And when I sing and perform, and I don't just sing, I do comedy, I lip sync, I dance. So it's like you do a whole bunch of different varieties in one show. And there's a lot of different types of drag as well. Like, there's more like the rock and roll stars, and there's more of the comedy queens that'll just put a pie in their face and call it a night.
So what type are you? Do you have a type?
I like to do a little bit of everything. I haven't done the pie thing yet, but actually I can't say that. Because one of the traditions that we do at Waterworks, when it's our birthday, we have the candles or whatever, and then we put the cake on the person's face. And it was just so fun last time. I finally was able to do that because I didn't care about the end of the night. And it was a wonderful time.
Well, tell us about the group in Albany. I think you said you're part of the Albany Pride group. Is that right? Or you go to their parades, or is there?
Well, it isn't a specific group. As everybody gets together.
I see.
And everybody gets together and celebrates Pride. And if you haven't gone, I would suggest people go to that. Even if you're not 100% a supporter, at least go to it, and you can feel the love in the air. Like, it brings me to tears every single time because everybody's so supportive of everybody, no matter who they are, what they are. And it's the one, and I think every day should be like that, because I don't understand how it takes a lot out of you more to hate than to love somebody. And if somebody has something negative to say, just turn it into a positive.
So how do you do that? I mean, how give us an example, because I think most of us, when somebody says something nasty or hateful, we, get defensive. And you seem to have this way of deflecting that. How do you do that?
I think it comes natural, especially with being a drag queen and everything. You learn to get a thick skin, because this thing is called reading, and the queens will make...
Called what?
Reading.
Reading?
Yeah, you're reading somebody, so you're pointing out their flaws or whatever. They'll just give you a dig, and the way I do is I give it back to them in just like a playful way, or like if they're trying to be mean, I'll be like, I'm sorry you feel like that. But you have to learn. My mom always taught me to kill them with kindness. So if they get you angry and you're angry at them, you're giving them what they want. So you get control by being the nice person that doesn't let it get to you. And it could eat you up on your way home or whatever, and you're angry in the car. But as long as you put on the face and be like, it's okay, I'm sorry you feel like that. That gets them even more upset, because you're still being nice to them when they want you to be angry at them.
It's sort of the Martin Luther King Jr. approach,
Right.
that he did through the whole civil rights movement.
Right.
To just return with love.
Right.
But boy, that's hard to do.
It is extremely hard to do. But I'm always the loving person. I don't like to be rude to people. I've always have a smile on my face. And if I was having a rough day at my workplace, my customers always knew, because I'm always smiling. So if I'm not smiling, something really had to happen. And in that case was when a woman was screaming at me because she didn't like the way I was dressed. And that day was a rough day, but I took everything with a grain of salt, and she was from the Hilltowns too, which made it a little bit more upsetting to me. And it would be something if we didn't know her from Adam, which I didn't know her from Adam, but she lives up near me. So having that hatred as my neighbor, not literally my neighbor, because my neighbors are very accepting of me. And it was wonderful because even my next door neighbor, we were out gardening, and she came over and she wanted to have a conversation about it because she didn't know about it. So, and instead of a lot of people in my community, they get angry when somebody asks them questions about their transition or whatever. And for me, I'd rather be informative and don't take anything personal because they're asking questions because they genuinely want to know. They want to know what's going on. They want to know how something happens. And if you just shut them down and start yelling at them, that's not going to help the situation at all. You need to be more informative. And if they ask questions, answer them. Don't get angry.
So here's a question. If we have anyone, like a young teenager listening, like how is it like a coming out, or this transition? How is it that you were able to make yourself known? That you weren't Jared anymore, that you're Jenna. And is there any advice for a kid that's in that position and feeling like they're not the gender they were born, but they don't know how to let the world know? I guess it starts with your own family, but do you have any advice or any thoughts about what you went through?
Well, for me, I had to accept myself first. It took me a little bit to accept myself because of the whole stigma of everything. And I had to learn to love myself because in a famous drag queen, RuPaul Charles, she says, if you can't love yourself, how are you going to love somebody else? And you have to love yourself first and be able to come to your own and say, this is who I am. And really, that took me a little bit to do.
What ages were you then? I mean...
Well, when I first came out, I identified as gay because I just knew that I liked the same sex. I didn't know anything else because up there they'll use gay as a term to put you down, and you don't really know anything else. And I had the I don't give a crap attitude, what you think. And you really have to accept yourself. And as soon as you accept yourself, don't be afraid to tell others. Don't be afraid to be who you are. In certain situations, I understand that kids might have to hold their tongue about who they are because maybe their family isn't accepting. And there are a lot of kids that get thrown out because of this.
Thrown out of their homes.
Oh, yeah. At 15, 16 years old, their parents kick them out on the streets because they don't like who their child is, which I find ridiculous because they are a part of you. They are your children. And there's this thing, I don't know if we have it up here. It's called the Trevor Project. And it helps kids.
That's what this is. The statistics are from, yeah.
It helps kids in my whole community, and they give them shelters and everything. And I know there's a person working on getting a shelter in Albany because there are a lot of kids that get thrown out, and it's heartbreaking because they're just trying to be who they are, and
it's hard enough, even for a straight teenager,
right.
to figure out who you are and navigate going into the adult world.
Right, and it's hard enough for them, but we get it 10 times fold.
Yeah.
I would just say, be who you are. And if you're in that environment, you can still be who you are, but just wait until you're a little bit more stable to come out to everybody. Because...
So know yourself first.
Right.
And then when you feel confident with that,
right. And if you know that you have a good home life and everything.
People that are supportive. Well, I'm wondering if there were particular things, and I might be making this up, but it seemed to me like the Hilltowns players. Did that help you? There you were on stage and, kind of admired by the community when you would perform. Was that a helpful thing, something like that? Or?
Being on stage definitely helped. It helped me become the performer I am today. It helped me... It did and it didn't at the same time. Yeah. Because you're still in the Helderbergs. So you still get those opinions that aren't very helpful. You'll get those sly remarks. Even though it is a tight-knit group, you will still get those sly remarks from other people. And after a while, it does get to you. But as I said before, take it with a grain of salt. They obviously are ignorant in the way that they don't know what's going on. And they just don't know.
Well, tell us, we're almost out of time, but about your hopes and dreams going forward. Now that you're solidly Jenna, what kinds of dreams do you have?
Well, for me, I want to have a family of my own. And with today's technology, it is possible. I can have a womb transplant, which would make it so I am able to carry my own baby. And that's something that I've always wanted growing up. It's just something that I've always wanted. And I'm planning on full transitioning. I'm starting on hormones and everything. So it helps your appearance look more girlish, even though my appearance does look girlish.
It sure does.
It does help a lot with that. And hopefully have a family. And I want to become a performer full time down the road. Because I know I'm not ready for that right now. But down the road, it would be a dream to do it. Because then you travel the world. You get paid to travel the world and perform for hundreds of thousands of people. And I would love it. And I want to be an educator as well. And I would love to teach people about my community. And about transgendered people as a whole. And how to handle certain situations, how to be more accepting. So that's, and just inform people, because I'd rather, as I said before, inform people than get angry at them. And if they have a remark, let them have the remark. Because it's not gonna get to me.
I think that's good advice for all of us. Thank you, Jenna.
Thank you, Lissa.